Alrighty guys, welcome back to another LEGO set review from BrickByBrick, and today we have set number 70594, the Lighthouse Siege. It contains 767 pieces and retails for $69.99. But you know, it was quite easy to find this at a discount at some point throughout its life, because you know, it came out around the Christmas season and they just decided to, you know, put it on sale basically instantly. I think I ended up getting it for around $50, which I think is a really good price, but we'll talk more about that later in the review. This was released in the second wave of Ninjago sets for 2016, which was the Day of the Departed wave, which is why Cole is featured on the box, but it is still a Skybound set containing, you know, Skybound Ninja and Skybound characters, so basically a Skybound set. The set does come with a little, you know, relatively small jet for flintlock, and a couple of sets do come with, you know, small, about this scale flyers. I think there's 3 in total, one for Siren, this one, and then another one for flintlock included in Misfortune's Keep. But I do think that this one looks pretty interesting. I like the use of these wing pieces on the back at, you know, angles to each other, 90-degree angles actually, in order to, you know, have the wings to the side and kind of like a tail section. Uses one of these printed disc pieces on the back. This is just for shaping. I mean, you could have, like, Clancy, for example, like, grab onto it. Or if you wanted to have your ninja attacking Flintlock, they could jump off the building and, like, grab onto this, I guess. But, you know, you could go like that. I don't think that's a good idea because you got the flame in the back, but, you know, whatever Clancy desires. I believe it's just for engine shaping. This flame here, part of a play feature, which we'll take a look at in a second. You can probably guess, though. These swords in the back are kind of acting as skids, but you could take them off and use them as weapons if you wanted to. And obviously there's a big 6-stud shooter at the front that is activated by turning this flame. And, well, not exactly the flame, because the flame will just turn by itself. But, you know, the cone, if you turn that, it will shoot off the studs, so, you know, there. And there they go, lost forever. Good thing the set includes extras. But, yeah. There's a sticker on the front, and a smaller front wing, which I think was a good design choice. I do like the controls in here. It comes with a lever and a printed dial for him. Obviously, you can't use that if he's holding his 2 pistols, but, you know, you could take those out of his hands, and he just sits in there like, you know, like you would in a little plane. But overall, I don't think this is a bad little side build. You know, it adds some decent play value and does not like to be focused on. Which I guess is fine, because that's not really the main focus of the set now, is it? The rest of it, or you know, the rest of the parts in the set go into building this really nice-looking lighthouse. It's got a decent amount of height to it, but you know, starting at the ground, there is this little side dock area, not really attached. As you can see, there's water in the middle, but this is where Squiffy can set up his little cannon. This is not really attached, you know, you just kind of rest it there. You can attach it with studs if you want, only at the edge though, but you know, it's designed to look like it has a little wheel, and they didn't use an actual cannon because that would be a little big for the scale here, but it is just a stud shooter, which I think is good because you can actually fire it. And I think it's interesting how they put the little flame on the back. Squiffy himself can, you know, stand there. There's a little bit of room for posing figures. But I think that the design of this looks okay. And I like how it's elevated off the ground a little. But it would maybe have been nice to see that completely filled in by a plate underneath. Also, he's got a wrench. But, you know, we'll take a look at accessories with figures later. The, you know, water in between is decently approximated. I would have liked to see a little more water around this because it is on an island, but you know, the lanterns here are nicely done with tassel pieces, and they kind of hang on this rope. And there is a staircase here, which is prominently, you know, featured. It is actually really large in the actual show, but this here is hinged at an angle. You are not really able to adjust it, per se, but it does kind of get a little weird placing figures on there because they're not exactly flat. They look like they are, you know, they look like you could stand figures on them, but really they kind of fall off. The actual platform up here, though, this is flat because it's part of a play feature, which we'll take a look at in just a second. On the side here, though, first there is a little platform which you can land from the zip line, which we'll take a look at later once we get towards the top of the build. But there is a plant here which just covers up the wall, but you can remove it and easy access into the basement. There's also, you know, some other, like you could use that to climb up, and some other plants around here. Rock piece. I like the little mail piece used out front on the little sign. There's a sword hidden behind this rock. And, you know, the rest of the detailing on the bottom floor is alright. We'll take a look at the interior later. But you can pull this right here out, and in would fall a figure. Clancy's not going to work because he has the big accessories. But, say Squiffy was standing there, you know, with nothing in his hands. And you just stand him on there, and he would want to fall over. And you go like that, and he falls right in, which I think works pretty decently. And then you can pull that back up, and he's locked in there, trapped. The floor above, I like the design on the exterior. That's a sticker on the door, which I do think looks good. Going around, though, this is the bottom point for the zip line, which does go all the way up to the top and curves all the way around. This, you know, is used just by attaching this figure's weapon around there, and he'll slide down. Doesn't always work perfectly, it gets caught around there, but I think that it's a decent feature, and you know, if you play around with it a bit, it does work. And I like that there's actually a way for them to get off the zip line, you know, and they didn't just leave him floating in midair here. But that is pretty much all there is to the exterior. I guess there is a sticker up here for the Tinkerer symbol. Up in the top floor there is a little display with swords and a teapot, which could be used as a teapot of Tyron, which is what Nauticon is trapped in. There's a telescope, a life preserver. I don't believe there's supposed to be another one on this side. I think it's just the one. Up here, this is where the lights are. There are some stud shooting crossbows, which both look good and work decently well. If they actually work, maybe. Maybe they don't work. They're supposed to. Yeah, that one works. I don't know why the other one didn't want to fire. But this in here looks alright, and when you push down on top, there's a light brick in there that turns on the light and works pretty well. And you just push down on the weather vane, which does spin around if you want it to. But I do like the interesting angles that you get from the roofs here. And the roof is not fully closed off in the back, which I dislike, but for the most part, everything looks pretty good. And, you know, just a nice design for a lighthouse. It does get a little weird around this side, though, where everything's open, but this one angle here, I think, that you get, you know, on the box, I think that that looks fantastic. So the whole lighthouse can open up by simply removing this torch on the bottom layer and folding it open. The real interesting thing here is, if you notice, this little ladder between the two floors is part of the floor right here. And you can see it right there. There is a little gap in the floor, but it's hard to see from most angles outside until it's opened up. But, you know, you just open that up and it falls down, and it just naturally folds back up when you push it back because of this piece here. I think that's a cool little design, and nice to be able to get into the top and bottom. There are a couple of more trap features, but first we're just going to take a look at the bottom floor over on this side, where there is the mirror that Nauticon can views and can see Jay and Nia hiding in the basement. That's how he discovers their location. But there's also the jail cell, which you can just pull a figure out sideways. It has that printed keyhole, but you know, you could also open the door. But you can trap your figures in there. We'll let them out for now, though. And down on the other side of the bottom floor is a little workshop area, and it is designed to be used as a little workshop for Echo Zane. You can throw them up on this little stand or table, which can be folded backwards and upwards. So, you know, it's got a little bit of posability to it. And from the other side, we can see that it's actually kind of hard to turn this whole thing around at once. This can easily be removed because it's just on a jumper. But in here there's a workbench which has a printed, or not printed, stickered blueprint piece that we'll just remove this all. But this is a blueprint for Zane, which is a really cool sticker to get. Also, there are tools on here as well as a little helmet which can be placed onto Tidy. There we go, first try. But I do think that this is a decent little area, and I think that it's a nice feature to have. I like it quite a bit. On the second floor, though, you can see that there is a little spring-loaded shooter, and I wonder what that would be for. Well, first off, I guess it is a little hard to see in there, but there's a rack of tools here. A rack of tools that you can only see when there's a certain amount of light. Those are removable, and I kind of wish the floors would be removable so we could get a little more light in here. But that sticker right there is a blueprint for the Falcon, which looks good. And in the center of the room, that's another printed piece, but not exclusive. This piece here can be used to, you can let out the spring-loaded shooter, and it will shoot. And as you cannot see from this angle, but you'll be able to see from another, it's easiest to reload it while it's open. But from this angle here, when we shoot off the spring-loaded shooter, you'll see that it is able to take out anyone standing in front of the door. Sometimes it'll actually open the door and kind of go through it, but usually it's just going to end up, you know, just shooting the door open, which I think is cool. You could also then shoot again because it does give you an extra spring-loaded missile. You could shoot a second time. You'd have to reload in between, but, you know, it does work. The second floor, other than that, though, is empty. The third floor has something on this side, which is a play feature, and you can take the TNT that you may have seen sitting in a little crate on the floor below. You can take that, load it in there, and just push it forward. It'll go out the front, which, you know, one of the TNT pieces just escaped me, by the way. So this time we'll only do it with one. But by turning this piece here, it just gets dumped out the front, which, you know, is effective, I suppose. However, when you do close this up, this kind of covers up the little seats on the ground, which I think are kind of cool. So, you know, that's a map of the island, I think. It could be Tiger Widow Island, but I don't remember. I assume that it's not. I don't remember exactly what this land is. But, you know, Tiger Widow Island was in a different... Like, it was before this in the show. But this table can get flipped up as well to gain access to the Tiger Widow Venom, or a Psi weapon, and underneath them both is a cool little stickered tile, which is one of those collectible Ninjago trading cards, which is kind of cool. I believe that's Lord Garmadon, but I could be wrong. And it does have some interesting techniques here because it is built upside down, so the plate and cup are, you know, they're just upside down. I think it is kind of cool and kind of effective. But, you know, as far as the interior goes, I do think it's well detailed. However, I wish it was a little bit more accessible. As a result, I think that the outside appearance of this thing is kind of what seals the deal for me, personally. So, these Jay and Nia figures are actually not exclusive at all, but I really, really appreciate the fact that they're both included in here, because this is one of the few sets where the figure selection actually makes a ton of story sense. and I really wish they did that more. Jay's weapon obviously is not special, and neither is Nia's, so, you know, whatever. They both get swords on their backs and these shoulder pads. They both have their faces, but Jay's is actually, or was, pretty new for this time. It is his double-sided face, so he has the worried and confident expression, and I like that. I do think that, you know, it was nice to include a new face for the season, but we already had the Pirate Jay, so this was, I think, generous to, you know, add another facial expression for this wave. Obviously came out a little bit earlier in the character encyclopedia, but, you know, the legs and the torsos, I think, are both really nice. I like them quite a bit. And they do have the cool symbols on their backs. And the Skybound suits, personally, were one of my favorites. They're definitely in my top 3 ninja outfits from from Ninjago in general. I don't know if I can say they're my favorites specifically. I don't know if I can commit to that, but definitely very, very close. So glad that this is a Skybound set, because I always like the Skybound Ninja. And like Jay and Nia, Flintlock and Clancy aren't exclusive, but they are a little bit special. The Clancy figure does have kind of a relatively standard accessory for him, a broom with a gold spike on the top. Flintlock appropriately comes with some Flintlock pistols. Gonna remove one of them. But the printing for the torsos and legs, you know, it's both just standard for these characters, but they'd get this shoulder armor piece in dark green, which I believe is only used for Sky Pirates, but, and I'm not going to bother taking off their armors. You can watch a minifigure showcase video for that, or other reviews that they're in. But I like Clancy's head a lot, which, you know, obviously only comes in the 2 sets that he comes in. But Flintlock gets his hairpiece, which is cool. I like having that option, and there's his head. I think he looks great with the mustache and hair, like he does in the show. I think that it's really nice to have a set that includes this character in this way, even though the parts aren't exclusive. You know, I think it's cool. And here you go, least exciting figure with one of the more exciting figures. There is Squiffy. You know, nothing special about him at all. He does come with a wrench, though, which is part of the tool wheel thing, but it's not special, really. You know, not exclusive. And here's Nauticon. You may notice I did turn his mask around already, because it actually almost looks more accurate that way, because he never really wears a mask actually covering his face, because he always has his face at an angle. But you can, you know, put it on the way, you know, the masks are intended to work. I think he looks better without it, honestly. The hairpiece is cool, but it's rubber, so it always falls out. And he has the Sword of Souls with Lloyd trapped inside, which is not exclusive to this set, but again, I always love a good Sword of Souls. The torso, or second torso, has decent printing on it, and there is a bit of printing on the regular torso. There's back prints for both of them. But overall, Nauticon, excellent figure to include here, because, you know, he was important to this scene too. So, again, show accurate. But he only comes in this set and the Misfortune's Keep. So you're going to want to get one of those, probably, if you're into Ninjago and like the Skybound Wave. This set is so much better than Misfortune's Keep. It almost renders the other set completely useless for, you know, any casual Ninjago collector who's not like a super completionist. The only thing that I really think is super exclusive and special still about Misfortune's Keep is Jay's pirate face, and to a lesser extent the Sensei Wu Sword of Souls. I don't think that's as important, because, you know, you never really see the actual characters in the Sword of Souls, so it doesn't matter as much. But that Jay face is still special. However, I like that this gives you an option to get Nauticon in A, a cheaper way, B, another way, and C, he's just an awesome figure, so it's nice to get him in any way you can. And last but not least, we have the 2 figures in the set that I think are by far the most desirable, and that is Echo Zane and Ty D. Or I think they reference him as Gizmo in one of the early seasons, like season 2, when they first end up at this lighthouse. Which, by the way, another thing that I didn't mention earlier, this lighthouse is where the Tinkerer resides, which is Zane's father, and they do visit it in episode 19, The Last Voyage, something like that. I think it's episode 9 in season 2, so 21 or 20 something. I don't know what it is, but it's called Last Voyage. So I think it's nice that they finally, go back to this old location and actually build it as a set. I think it would have been amazing if they threw in just a Tinkerer minifigure, even though, he doesn't exist anymore, he's dead, but it would have been awesome to see a minifigure of him, and I kind of do still hope they make one eventually in some sort of little pack or something. Ty D has this helmet here. It has the little goggles. I don't think he wears it in the show. And the other thing about him that is cool is he has a printed 1x1 cylinder, which is his head. Only print around the front half, and the rest of him is just brick built, so not exclusive, but I like that printed piece. I wish it was a cone. I understand it's probably hard for them to print on cones. I don't think they ever have, but that would have made the shape a little more accurate. He does look really bad when he wears this helmet, though. He looks like he can't see a thing, because he probably can't. And he comes with a screwdriver. But Echo Zane, man. This figure is fantastic. I love this figure so much, and so glad they made it. The only thing that you're missing to make that secondary ninja team is the commissioner. But the print throughout him is really good. I love that face. Really nice. He comes with just regular pearl gold. Almost wish it was the metallic one from the Agents theme, but they probably A, don't still have that available. B, I don't think it would be that much more accurate. But he is really, really well printed. Got back print around there. The back print on the torso even has the Tinkerer symbol on the lighthouse. I think that this is a great figure, and I think that it's super desirable, especially after the season. I don't know if we'll see him again in the show. I'd love to, but, they probably have to go back to the lighthouse at some point for that. So I think that this is probably going to be the last chance, or the last time he's in a set, the only, first and last. I think that it's a super desirable figure and makes this set a must-have for me, even if you don't like the build, which I think is, hard to dislike. So, but let's take a look at it one more time. Final verdict. If you are a Ninjago fan, you will like this set. And honestly, I don't really have any problem at all believing that. This is super well done. It looks good on display, from this angle, of course, not necessarily the back. Also, if you wanted to, you could remove this and open it up so that it looks like that, which doesn't look awful, but doesn't look great either. So I wouldn't recommend that. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but there's a little climbing wall here. You can use your ninja to climb up the side. All sorts of hidden details throughout this set. Just make it super, really, fun to play with. It is a great play set. Don't get me wrong. But it's also a great display set and a fantastic minifigure selection. I think this is definitely within my top 5 favorite Ninjago sets. And I don't have a problem saying that at all. It might be iffy if you add in the movie sets, if you count that, but TV show sets, this is one of the best ones. This is one of the most TV show accurate ones. It's, you can play out scenes from the actual show. I think that's great. Honestly, there's not much I have to complain about. Even the price is really good, 767 pieces for $70 at retail price. And factor in the fact, yeah, that's a good saying, that it was on sale quite a bit. I honestly would be really upset if I had missed out on this set. So I do think that this is one of those sets that is going to remain one of the best sets that Ninjago has ever made, and that's my opinion. You feel free to disagree with it, but I would recommend considering this set if you are a Ninjago fan. Even if you're just a fan of this Ninjago style of architecture, I think you could do some cool things with it, especially if you bought two. You could probably make it double-sided so that it looks good from all angles, but personally, on a shelf, the way I have it, it looks good on display, so I am very happy with the set. Would give it an A+. One of my favorites, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Let me know if you guys agree with me, disagree with me in the comment section down below. I'd be interested to hear some outside opinions, as a maybe less of a Ninjago fan, but overall, I think that this is fantastic, one of the best sets that has come out of the Ninjago universe, and definitely would recommend to pretty much anybody. So, hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys all later. Bye, everyone.